Welcome to another Facebook Live interview. I'm Don Burgess, and with me today is Dennis Lister III, and Deputy Premier, and a whole bunch of other things in his portfolio, but mainly
Minister
TCD
of Transport and Regulatory
Affairs, and charge of the buses and making sure we're all safe. And today we're going to be talking about Operation Caution. And so you held a press conference last month revealing this. So for those people who may not have been paying attention, what is Operation Caution and what is it expected to do?
Well, Operation Caution is our road safety strategy for the next 5 years, 2018 to 2023, to make a serious effort to change the behavior and the situation on Bermuda's roads, to limit the deaths, limit the injuries, and improve safety for everyone.
Why do you think this is so important? I mean, obviously nobody wants to see anybody get killed or have an accident on the road, but why is this such an important issue to deal with?
1,240 incidences over a year's period, 55 serious injuries, and 15 deaths. I think those numbers say it all.
Okay. So, go ahead.
I just would like to reiterate the comment of the Minister. Road safety is a national priority. It's an epidemic. As we've seen over the past few months, a lot of statistics. In the past 10 years, 118 deaths on our roads. In the past 20 years, 227 deaths. So it's definitely something that we want to address. And this road safety plan is something that's been put together to help address this. And with our objectives of reducing collisions and fatalities by 25% is what we hope we can achieve.
So what is the plan? How are we going to reduce those deaths by 25% in the accidents?
Maximum priority on education. Doing some things with technology, such as cameras at stoplights. Breaking out the road safety education from grade school. And roadside sobriety checkpoints as well. And greater presence of the police on our roads are just some of the initiatives that are going to be a part of the plan that we're rolling out.
So how are the cameras at the stoplight supposed to help?
Well, obviously some violations where people are going through stoplights and other things, that technology will be added to the overall CCTV camera system that's across the island as we advance that as well. So technology is going to be also a tool in dealing with the issue of conduct and behavior on our roads.
So does that mean like if somebody rolls through a stoplight, they're going to get an automatic ticket sort of thing, or how does that help?
That's the type of system that we're going towards, and it's a technology, one of the technology components. So yes, that will be something that we do in the not too distant future. We also may look at speed cameras, but those are for the future. But certainly the immediate we're going to look at over the next period is the stoplight cameras.
So specifically just stoplight, not at maybe some stop signs who might have a little bit more, say, incidents of people rolling through them, like the one at Flats or the one down on North Shore, or sorry, Harbor Road going into town.
Yes.
Would those be prime examples where a stop sign might deserve a
the process of identifying where we're going to have them is still going, but that's a part of the plan.
Yes. Well, I just want to jump in, Don. I see it every day. Being in Hamilton, you see people run the stoplights. Some of them are just flagrant, and the light's been ran for a while, and it's something that we have to address. Again, as the minister said, education. So just a stoplight camera, a person gets a ticket once, and it makes them think again about doing it over and over. So it's a tool in helping to address the lack of caution and safety on our roads at stoplights.
You guys seem like you have a real strong approach to education and starting it younger maybe than the teenagers at Project Ride, but starting it younger. Why at a younger age?
Well, not only do we think this makes sense, but in other countries it has shown to have made a difference in overall driver education and understanding. Everybody who grows up in Bermuda, we start with pedaling our bikes around. That's kind of how we start, but there's not necessarily any formal training that we get on how we conduct ourselves on our roads. Most of us learn by just watching other people. Well, we need now, because the roads are now much more complicated and much more full with traffic than when we were growing up. So now we need to ensure that at an early age, young people from as early as possible can start having education about the discipline and conduct on the roads. And if they're getting that in those years, and by the time they get up to when they do get their examinations for being on the road at 16, they've already had years and years of actual learning on the road. Instead of really, right now, it just starts with learning how to ride your first motorbike. Right. That's too late. So we need to start earlier. Right. And it's shown to have worked in other jurisdictions as well.
Again, the younger you are, the more impressionable you are. And even from my own experience, as a youngster, my father used to take my brothers and I out for a bike ride, and we put our helmets on. You know, sometimes you don't want to do it, but it's the practice of good habits as young, so that when you get older, you're used to putting on a helmet, buckling your helmet. So starting young as early as possible, and as they say in the Bible, train up a child so when they get older they won't depart from it. So all of that even entails to things like road safety. So we're starting young, and hopefully that generation, when they get onto the roads, we can see better driving habits on the road.
You mentioned a review of Project Ride. I can say, like, honestly, I know at least 24 kids who have gone through Project Ride the last year or two have already been in an accident. But I see like a lot of bad habits. You know, they completed Project Ride, and they go out, they're not buckling their helmet, like you mentioned. They're not stopping at stop signs. Why is this review needed?
Well, we are in the position where we're committed to reviewing Project Ride. It's been in place for a number of years. Things have changed since then, so we're going to review it so that we do have a program that includes whatever we have learned from Project Ride, but also adds any additional attributes that can better prepare young persons for going on the road. So we know we're in a period of review on a number of levels, but our chief purpose of this campaign is to save lives, is to bring down the number of people who are experiencing injuries, and certainly one death too many we are seeing. So we're doing all these steps to actually make sure that ultimately the behavior of everyone, whether you're a new person entering on the road or even some of the experienced persons, so we're even going to have certain changes that are going to affect our mature drivers as they have unfortunate circumstances on the road. But we are focusing on changing behavior to save lives.
One of the things that you've mentioned before is more speed signs so people know how fast they're going. How effective have the signs been so far?
Well, we clearly have an issue with people behaving on the roads, so we need more signs. So we're going to make sure that more signs are around the island, prominently placed, reminding people of what the speed limit is and how they should conduct themselves. All of us who travel overseas see on highways constant reminders of what the speed limit is. So we're taking an approach like that. There will be numerous reminders as people go up and down Bermuda's roads as to what the limit is and what they should be doing.
Oh, okay. So I thought you meant like more signs that show what speed you're traveling at, like down East Broadway.
No, we're going to have like...
It will be a mix of...
Yeah, a mix of that,
okay,
but
yeah.
like, you know, speed limit is this. As you go down whatever road, you're going to see signs that remind people of what the limit is.
It's to be more vigilant in your face, to make you aware of, you know, you might think you're doing 40, but you're really maybe doing 50. So, you know, and also just to warn you, speed limit's 35, slow down. So it's just about being in your face, and the more presence we have, the more effect that it will have on the public.
The rumple strips and the speed bumps, has that been effective in getting people to slow down their speed?
Well, it may have in certain cases, but clearly more needs to be done. So, and I think what we're going to do more is, one other thing that we think will actually affect speed and conduct and behavior is the greater presence of the police. So the police will not be out there in a punishment sort of mode, but in a preventative mode. Like you may see a car parked on some of our main thoroughfares, and you'll see the presence of the cycle squad as well. And we know that when people are aware and they see them, they slow down. Most of us slow down. So we're going to do things that are more preventative in nature rather than punitive. And so a greater presence of the police is one of the key factors we're also going to make sure is part of our plan going forward.
Yeah, I know, like, when I see a police officer, I immediately look down at this pedometer to see,
Exactly.
see how fast I'm going.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the type of behavior we're looking to get people to do more.
Right. You also talked about adult education. What form might that take?
Well, we'll review the sort of testing that we do now for drivers, for the driver's testing. There'll be some also for people who actually find themselves to have committed offenses. They will have more substantive examinations to have to get back on the road, and they'll have to do things to get themselves back on the road. We're going to look at all of that going forward as part of our plan of changing behavior.
Right. I know a couple of my friends were in court the same day for third lane down East Broadway. They got the $800 fine and they had to go pay and things. So it might take more than just a fine. It might be a fine and some training, or a fine or training. How's that going to work?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, we believe that we must do everything to affect behavior. So there may be a case where people are going to have to, having been to court for for an infraction on the road, they're going to have to do some level of minimal re-education to get back on the road, or some sort of orientation, you might want to say, to get back on the road, which means they'll have to reacquaint themselves with the rules and be sufficiently understand the gravity and responsibility that they have to getting back on the road and being a road user, so that people will take it seriously and see that we all have a responsibility as users of the road to not only govern our behavior, but doing that so you help others also conduct themselves, and you're also, each other's safety is also a part of the responsibility of being on the road. It's not just our own, it's also the people who are riding, walking, and driving.
So that might take place in like a Saturday classroom setting, or an evening setting, or online, or something, anything?
That's getting into broader detail that we will announce to the public as we go along. Education is a big part of what we are focusing on. It's the top priority of this effort, because it's only through education that behavior can be shaped. So we want to have more education. Beyond taking your test to get your driver's license, there's not really anything else that drivers, even if you break the rules, have to be exposed to. So we want to incorporate those components as part of the path going forward over the next 5 years, so that we shape behavior. It's about changing behavior. That's the only way we're going to change the situation. We're not going to police ourselves out of it.
Right.
So we have to be preventative, a little bit of punitive, but we have to be educational.
Sorry if I seem a little bit
It's all right.
On the sugar tax, government seems more on the punitive nature, rather than, because a lot of people were crying out more education rather than raising the tax. Why is this going to be more effective in this case rather than the sugar tax?
Well, I can't speak to the rationale that you're trying to shape around the sugar tax, because we're trying to, again, affect the behavior there. But that's another ministry. But within transport, we know that changing behavior can help save lives, and that's what we're going to focus on, educating people so that they are mindful of the behavior they should have, taking steps to show them what behaviors are not right on the roads, and also working in different types of programs, starting as children up through to those who are getting their education to get on the roads, and even with people who are on the roads, doing things that show them you have a certain behavior and conduct you must have on our roads if you want to be safe, if you want to be efficient at where you want to go, and if you want to ensure minimal injuries and deaths. So we're going to spend a lot of time showing people what they should be doing on our roads.
It's definitely education priority, because as we've seen in the past, punitive measures, they haven't, not to say they haven't been effective, but people take the fine, they take the time off the road, they get back on the road, and they haven't had any education to change the behavior. They go right back to doing it. So yes, there will also be a punitive aspect, but education first and foremost. It doesn't make sense. If you're in school, you get in trouble. If the teacher doesn't correct you and tell you what's wrong, if they just hit you, the next day you go right back to the same thing. But if you have to be told, this is what you did wrong, and a learning process, that's all a part of changing the behavior. So that's what we're looking at, and that's what we feel is the best way to help change the behavior on our roads.
Part of your plan with the youth was to have a little video contest, which I believe the deadline was on Friday. How many submissions did you get?
Well, we decided that we're going to extend the contest.
Okay.
And we want more participation from the community so that it can be something that is more successful than we dreamed it will be. So we're going to extend the contest. There'll be more information out about that going forward so that we can have more participation.
Yeah, they had 3 town halls already, I believe. How did that go? Was there any feedback from the public that you were able to take and incorporate into the plan going forward?
Yes, actually, we had a lot of quality feedback at the 3 town halls, together, and there are people there who are very passionate about what they want to see around road safety. So we got feedback that we will be using and incorporating into the plan. Just so you know, the plan is organic. So we've outlined a strategy, but as we go along, it's over a 5-year period. If things are brought to our attention, we will incorporate them because it's organic. It's meant to move with the community and address the needs that the community have and their concerns as well. There was a lot of consultation around it to get to where we are, but this is about engagement with the community. It's not just about a top-down approach to trying to move people in a certain direction.
Now, I know like a lot of people probably wouldn't be in favor of this just because it seems like the number one crime that's broken, or the number one law that's broken in Bermuda is speed. But you've talked about the cameras on the stop sign. What are the possibilities of having speed cameras along certain points of the road? That
may be a part of a future implementation, but that will be a matter for the Minister of National Security along with us to discuss. Everything is about budgets and resources. Right now, this is what we're doing in this phase. We're committed to this plan for 5 years. National Security will evaluate the deployment of speed technology to assess speed, because we have over 100 cameras around the world, around the island already as CCTV. That will be a technology enhancement to the current system for speed cameras. So, but that's a matter for the National Security Ministry to sort of opine on and decide the chief direction.
Now, I know you said there were a lot of good ideas from the town halls. Can you just pick out one that really resonated with you?
Well, people were concerned with how we eliminate people riding in the third lane. They wanted to see more police out there. They wanted to see more earlier education. They wanted to see more of these activities. That was chiefly kind of the things that people wanted to see. Perhaps Mr. Lister had some of what other things that people may have said.
I actually have one suggestion put to me regarding re-education DUI classes per se. They have technology where you can have the goggles that can show you what it's like to drive with blurred vision. They said maybe that's something that could be put into a re-education class. So it's a good idea that they told me and said it's something that we can definitely look into, because again, a part of the education, if you're sober right now and if you have the experience of driving with blurred vision, you can see, okay, this is what it's like when I'm drunk and I don't actually recognize it, and you can see how dangerous it is. So that will go to changing someone's behavior on the roads.
Yeah, because I know like the thought is, well, I'm drunk, but I'm not that drunk. I can get on my bike or car and I can drive. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you gentlemen would like to put forth to the public?
I'll say something, but I'm sure Mr. Lister will have his own thoughts on it. This is about saving lives. This is all this is about. We have had 15 deaths in the last calendar year. How many of those people could be here, obviously making a positive contribution to their families and to the community? All of them. Because every one of those deaths were preventable. So what we're doing with this road safety plan and the other measures the government is putting in place is to just save lives. It's not to do anything else. It's not to make it more difficult to use the roads. We understand that people like to do certain things, but we want people to be responsible. One of the campaigns we did over the Christmas holiday was think before you drink. So we want people to think and to understand that we have a crisis on our roads, and all of us working together can solve it.
Don, I just want to reiterate again, saving lives, because one life gone is one life too many. So when you get on the roads, you have to be a responsible driver and be accountable for your actions. So if you feel that you can go out and have a drink, remember that you have to not only take care of yourself, but others. So caution, care, responsibility, accountability, be safe, be fun, but also remember to think, choose, live, and arrive alive.
Think, choose, live, arrive alive is a good way to end this.
Yes.
I'm Don Burgess. I was with Dennis Lister and Deputy Premier, and I'm never going to get this
Minister of Transport and Regulatory Affairs.
Minister of Transport and Regulatory Affairs, Walter Roban, and they've been very gracious to us today on Operation Caution, and we hope that you have a beautiful afternoon and a beautiful week.